Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, we meet again with me Alfanwari. So in this video I would like to give a presentation about chapter 3, the points that I get from chapter 3 from the book Introducing Comparative Literature, New Trends Application by Routledge 2015. First, let me share screen the PPT. So here we go, chapter 3, comparative literature and decoloniality. Where shall comparison be located? Comparative literature is still a discipline that may be applied to literature in colonial situations, provided that two subjects are taken into consideration and two questions posed. As for the caveats, Mignolo pinpoints that on one hand, comparative literature is a European invention rooted in the comparatism that emerged during the expansions of the Portuguese and Spanish empires, when the transition from three major languages of scholarship, Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, to Western national language and national literatures as a result of the configuration of nation states took place. On the other hand, in contrast to the specific location of comparative literature, an invention of Western Europe, comparative processes are universally shared by human beings. Some lessons from comparative philosophy. A comparative literature that addresses literatures in colonial situations requires, according to Mignolo, Canon and Corpus 238, a diatopical hermeneutics as a result of the asymmetry of power relations. Some questions for an imperative comparative literature. An imperative comparative literatures remains so far more in a programmatic oriented stage than in an analytic oriented one. By drawing on Mignolo's publications, in which comparative literature was still at the center of the decolonial argument, the colonial argument, three areas become relevant. There are oral literature, non-Western artifacts, and emergent literatures. So here's the explanation about oral literature, non-Western artifacts, and emergent literatures. First, oral literature. Oral literature does not exist in the West in modern times, where it is here not in oral literature, a concept that Pio Zirimu replaces by orature, where the real oxymoron lies for Western categories, where orality is at odds with modernity, or if it exists, it is negligible. And then the second is non-Western artifacts. It is not about comparing writers and literary works, but about comparing semiotic practices in several cultures, as well as the ways in which such practices are conceived. And the last, the third, emergent literatures. The concept of emerging literatures is embedded in an evolutionary view of literature, whereby they will not be fully developed as yet. Emergent literatures, in their turn, challenge the actual configuration of comparative literature and resist being treated as emerging. So that's all for my presentation. The points that I get from chapter 3 from the books Introducing Comparative Literature New Trends Application by Routledge 2015. So thank you for watching me from the start until the end and the last. I say wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and have a nice day.